If you could have any superpower, what would you choose? You know, I'm watching the Avengers movies right now, just kind of trying to go through them in order, all right? And so, of course, we have to start with Captain America, the original one where he's back in World War II. And so I watched that one recently, and if you haven't seen it, here's basically what happens. Captain America is this kind of puny guy, but what happens is he's given a serum that they call the Super Soldier Serum, very clever title. They give him this serum, and what happens is it enhances him so that he becomes this super soldier. But because it enhances him, it enhances what's already in him, and he's a good guy, he becomes a great guy, right? But then there's this other guy, and his name is Johann Schmidt, and he's a Nazi. And Johann Schmidt takes the serum as well, and because it enhances him, it enhances his evil. And so he becomes the villain, and he's called the Red Skull because his face turns red and he looks like a skull. Okay, so imagine if you could take something, imagine if there was a serum and you could take it, and not only would it enhance you, but it actually gave you superpowers that you needed to accomplish your mission. Okay, so one person would be enhanced. And when I say enhanced, I don't just mean like that whatever qualities you already had, right? Or Red Skull became more evil. What if it only enhanced the good things in you, the good qualities that you have? And it actually helped you to fight against the bad qualities that we all have, right? The sinful things that we tend to do. What if there was a serum like this, and then it gave you superpowers so that if your mission was, you know, you needed to be able to fly, you needed to be able to be invisible. Like, what power would you want if you could get that? So normally I give this talk in front of a live audience of middle school kids, and I'll kind of interact with them, and some kids will be like, I want to fly, and I want to be invisible, and someone will say, I want to be telepathic. It's like being able to read other people's minds, and I'll usually joke with them. I'll be like, really? Really? You want to be telepathic? You want to know what people are thinking? Or someone will say, I want to be telekinetic. I want to be able to move things with my mind. And I'll say, yeah, if anyone here has the power of telekinesis, please raise my hand. Or, you know, someone's going to say, oh, I want to be able to bilocate, which means I could be in two places at once. And I'm working on bilocation. So far, I've got it half right. So those jokes work way better in front of a live audience of middle school kids. They're kind of awkward to say by yourself in a forest, talking to a tree. I tied my phone to a tree. That's what I'm using for a podium. All right. I think the Holy Spirit is kind of like that serum, right? It enhances us, it makes us better, helps us overcome the negative things, and it gives us powers. Now think about this for a minute. Nowadays, when we think of superheroes, we might think of Superman and Batman, right? The Justice League or the Avengers or the X-Men or Incredibles or whatever. We have all these characters in our minds, and every kid knows these characters and they play them. Imagine what it would be like to be an apostle. Right? Peter and Andrew were brothers, James and John were brothers, and these guys all lived in the same town. Maybe they were friends when they were kids. Can you imagine they'd get together and they'd want to play their games, right? And instead of playing like with the modern superheroes, maybe they'd play like prophets, right? And they'd be like, you know, one guy would be like, yo, I want to be Joshua, and Joshua's superpowers that he can make walls crumble. I mean, you could do this in modern times, right? Imagine this Joshua coming along, destroying a city, and someone would be like, can you uncrumble it? And he'd be like, no uncrumble. Why uncrumble? Uncrumble is silly. Right? And, can you unpunch someone? Right? Or you think of like Elijah, he called down fire from heaven, right? Or then there's Samson with his super strength, right? Or Moses. Moses had like more than one superpower. He could like part the Red Sea or bring a plague of frogs or turn a stick into a snake. Oh, impressive. So there's all these different things that these guys could do. How did they do it? I was thinking it would be kind of funny to make a modern movie or like video game out of this. We could call it Apostles' Creed. Okay, how did they do this stuff? How did they have these powers? They had the Holy Spirit. See, the Holy Spirit was working in them. That's how you explain it, right? Samson, when people say, oh, why was Samson super strong? Because he had long hair. Should we therefore conclude that everybody with long hair is super strong? No, it was the Holy Spirit that was working in him, and his long hair was a sign of his dedication to God. Okay, so they had these powers because of what the Holy Spirit was doing through them, and the apostles would know that. So check it out. The apostles start hanging out with Jesus, and Jesus clearly has powers. He calms a storm, like Storm, right? The X-Men. He calms a storm. He walks on water at one point. He heals people miraculously. He's got all these powers. And then he says to the apostles, so the apostles know he's doing this by the power of the Holy Spirit. They know this. And then he says to them, you're going to receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And he promises them this. And then sometime later, after Jesus dies and rises again, he goes up to heaven. 50 days after Jesus died, they're celebrating Pentecost, because it's 50 days after the Passover. Okay, they're celebrating Pentecost. They're having this feast. It's the celebration of when, in the Old Testament, Moses brought them the 10 Commandments. Okay, in the New Testament, they're celebrating this. They're locked in an upper room, and they're scared. And all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit comes on them. And the Bible describes it like this. They're locked in this room. The doors are locked. They think maybe the Romans are going to come get them. Maybe the Jewish authorities are going to come get them. So they've got all the doors locked. And all of a sudden, it's like there's this sound of a powerful wind blowing through. And then the fire comes down and everybody like rests on all of them, says like tongues of fire. People start speaking other languages. And these scared men walk out of that room transformed by the power of the Holy Spirit. And they go out, and some of them are going to perform miracles, right? Peter and John are going to heal some people with their power. Paul is later going to be able to. And so some of these powers that Jesus had, they're going to have. And Jesus had promised them this. Jesus said, you see the things I've done? You're going to do even better things than this. Well, check it out. This is a fulfillment of what was prophesied in the Old Testament. There is this prophet called Joel, and Joel basically said this. He said, listen, all these people have had the Holy Spirit, all these individuals, right? Elijah, and then Elisha, and then Isaiah, right? These guys had the Holy Spirit. Well, check it out. In the latter days, I'm going to pour my Holy Spirit on all people, young and old, male and female, everybody, right? You're going to have the Holy Spirit. This is what happened at Pentecost. And this is what happens for us. Now, here's the thing. The Holy Spirit doesn't just overpower you, right? You're not going to get confirmed and all of a sudden, oh, I'm doing all these miracles. I can't even control it. I've become perfect, right? That's not how it works. By analogy, it's kind of like the Force in Star Wars, right? You've got to learn how to cooperate with it. But unlike the Force and unlike the super soldier serum, right? Unlike these allegories that I'm using, the Holy Spirit is actually a person. And what that person wants to do, the person wants to work in us and have us respond to him. Listen, everything that we've been talking about in these confirmation series, all the former talks, they're all getting fulfilled at confirmation. You get the Holy Spirit at baptism and at confirmation, kind of like your second dose, okay? You're getting the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's going to be active in you, but the Holy Spirit is going to build on your nature. Remember we talked about how grace builds on nature? The Holy Spirit's going to build on you. So the Holy Spirit's going to enhance what is good in you and help you fight against what is bad in you, but he doesn't take over. It's very important to God that we retain our free will. So we have to respond to the Holy Spirit and cooperate with the Holy Spirit. But the Holy Spirit can start sanctifying us, making us into the people that God created us to be. Another superhero movie is The Incredibles. Now, let's see if you remember this, okay? The villain in The Incredibles is Syndrome. And at one point, Mr. Incredible is in this cave, and there's the skeleton of Gazer Beam there, right? And the skeleton Gazer Beam's ability apparently was that he could like shoot lasers out his eyes, it looks like. So the skeleton is sitting there, and Mr. Incredible hides behind, and then he's kind of looking from behind the skeleton, and he notices that Gazer Beam wrote something in the wall with his laser eyes. And so Mr. Incredible's got to stand just right. And do you remember what it was that was written on the wall? It's going to turn out to be the password for Syndrome's computer. You remember what it was? It was the word Chronos. Chronos, because Chronos is a Greek god, like a titan from Greek mythology, a Greek god who destroys other gods. And Syndrome is like, I'm going to be the superhero who destroys all superheroes. And so that's why he would use that for his password. It's kind of a narcissistic thing. Here's why I bring this up. To the regular people, superheroes are kind of like gods. To us, the way that we were meant to be would be kind of like a god. Remember we were created in God's image and likeness? Remember we talked about before how we are created to be holy, we're created to be perfect? What the Holy Spirit does in us is sanctify us. Saint means holy, so he holifies us. He makes us holy. That's what the Holy Spirit does in us. In the Eastern traditions, they talk about deification. What this means is not that we actually become gods, okay, it's not some weirdo thing, but we become like God because we were created to be like God, in his image and likeness. And we're still in God's image, right? We still have the ability to reason and love and free will and to be creative, all these things that God created us. But we're not like him in that we're not making love our aim. What the Holy Spirit wants to do is transform us. What we need to do is cooperate with that. So again, everything we've been learning in confirmation, it's going to lead up to this point where you're going to get confirmed. The successor of the apostles, the bishop, is going to come to you, lay his hands on you. He's going to invoke the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is going to come on us so that he can start to transform us, because we were created for love, by love, to love, right? We are created to love, and so the Holy Spirit is going to start working in us in order that we might love. We are going to be enhanced in our virtues, and we're going to be able to fight against those negative things in us. And yes, it is possible that God will even do miracles in us. All throughout history, there are saints who, not all the time, but under extreme circumstances, all of a sudden they'd be able to perform miracles. I talked about bilocation. Padre Pio was able to bilocate. Joseph of Cupertino, it said, would levitate off the ground. St. Benedict is said to have walked on water. St. Scholastica is said to have calmed a storm. And so what we can expect from the Holy Spirit is that the Holy Spirit's going to start transforming us. But again, he's not just going to take us over. We're going to have to cooperate with him. My prayer for you is that when you go to confirmation, you recognize how big this is. That this is the same Holy Spirit that Elijah had, that Moses had, that Joshua and Samson had in the Old Testament, and now that Holy Spirit is going to be in you. And that you will make it your goal to respond to the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit sanctify you. Let God give you the power he intended for you to have as someone created in his image and likeness. God bless you.